喂，你今日飲咗未啊？
飲 orange juice？
青紅蘿蔔豬骨湯？
Coffee or tea or me？
飲橙汁？不如試下飲 coffee bubble tea 啦。Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Coffee Bubble Tea. Today we have here Samson, Colin, and Tiffany.
Hello.
Hello.
So we've been talking about hosting a podcast episode on Encanto for a few months now. Encanto is a Disney movie that came out in 2021. And there's something about this movie that captured our hearts with its upbeat music and magical story about the power of family love. Some of us here loved it, and others of us were not as impressed. And if you haven't watched Encanto yet, please be warned that there will be spoilers in this episode. So in a nutshell, Encanto is a movie about Mirabel, a girl who grows up in a family with magical powers. Her grandparents were fleeing their home with their baby triplets, and their grandfather, Abuelo Pedro, dies while trying to protect them. A magical candle creates a safe valley and a beautiful home called Casita for Abuela, the grandmother, and her 3 kids who go on to have their own kids, and their family grows. So each child receives a special magical gift when they come of age, and this gift is meant to serve the greater community. So some examples of these gifts include being able to cook meals that heal people, being able to transform the weather, talking to animals, shape-shifting, and being very strong. So here's my first question for you. If you could have a special gift or a magical gift, what gift would you choose?
係唔係 limit 即係我哋揀套戲裡面嗰啲 gift 啊？定係we can make up a gift？
Both. So you can choose one that already exists, or you can come up with anything that you think would be really cool to have.
我覺得我係想揀 Isabella 嗰個 gift 嘅，即係 control plants 嗰個。Because that means I can save the world.
Oh, because then you could just kind of keep growing trees and more trees and more trees to soak up the CO2.
Carbon monoxide.
Wow.
That's
all
awesome.
that.
Climate
all that
change.
Stuff. Climate change.
Yeah.
諗唔到添，突然間，但係我諗我有一，即係我諗都唔係好似印象中好似唔係份套戲，即係如果我有個 gift， 我係想係我可以去安慰到人嘅呢個 talent，即係無論佢係開心唔開心啊，或者係點樣，即係我係識得去安慰人，可以 heal 到人哋嘅 emotions 啊嗰啲咯。
Wow. Yeah.
可能係因為我覺得我需要呢個咁樣嘅人去幫我，或者喺我身邊，所以我覺得咁樣都幾好有呢個嘢嘅話。因為真係我唔知你哋會唔會真係有陣時有啲朋友啦，或者係有啲長輩，你同佢傾完之後咧，即係同佢傾偈咧，真係有陣時佢好似就會有呢種能力咁樣咧。你同佢傾完偈，你就覺得哇！你覺得你突然間哇一天都光晒咁樣嗰啲。
Yeah. That is a special gift.
Tough question. I think similar to Tiff's, but not exactly the same. Well, maybe it is. It's like the gift to be able to sense people's moods or understand their moods, and then to be able to the gift of being able to make people laugh or just more happy, I guess. Yeah, that I would say something along those lines.
Wow. So yeah, what I'm hearing is some more of the emotional awareness stuff, the emotional care kind of stuff. That's really cool. I'm struggling as well to answer this question. I think if I were younger, I would really like the gift Dolores has, which is the one where you hear everything. But I know it's also very overwhelming. And at this point, I think I just want to be able to the gift of being invisible. So if someone needs to find you, they really can't find you because you're just invisible.
That was my second thing I was gonna say. It was like invisibility. Would be a nice one.
which unfortunately is not a really helpful gift for the community, but self-preservation kind of gift. Okay. So back to the movie, our lead character Mirabelle somehow doesn't have a gift. So this gift question is a trick question. So she tries not to show her disappointment, but it's clear she's failed to make her grandmother, Abuela, proud. And in fact, one of her uncles disappeared after having a vision of Mirabelle and their beloved home, Casita, cracking and falling apart. So Mirabelle takes on the responsibility to try and save Casita by trying to understand what the problem is. And so she starts asking questions amongst her family members, and she slowly learns that these magical gifts have placed so much pressure on some of these members of her family. So her super strong sister, Luisa, feels so much pressure to handle all the physical duties, but she doesn't get to talk about it or doesn't have the chance to say, it's too much, I don't want to do this. And her perfect and beautiful sister, Isabella, feels the need to be so perfect and to please everyone that she almost gets engaged to someone she doesn't actually want to marry. So what I really liked about this movie, and again, it was a movie I got to watch with my family. We had hot pot in the afternoon and then settled in for a Disney movie. And it was really great to watch it with everyone. And so what I really liked about the movie is how it displayed internal family dynamics so vividly. So it's quite common actually in families for different family members to take on different roles, which is important, right? We need someone to make money. We need someone to take care of the house, and we need people, to bring joy and laughter. We need people to hold boundaries for us. But these roles can become problematic when people become bound or limited by these roles, right? Like that's the athlete in our family. That's the smart person in the family. And there's not really space for one person to explore more of these roles. So another question is, how would you describe your own roles in your families, whether it's your family of origin, the one you grew up in, or your extended family with like you amongst your cousins and uncles and aunties and grandparents, or your current family, if you've established a family of your own? How would you describe your role?
呢個我諗翻起咧，細個嘅時候，即係I think it was around high school 咁樣咧，嗰陣時屋企咧就so I think my parents went back to Hong Kong， 咁咧就有個 trip 咧，我哋即係都可能都有大半年冇見啊，或者係即係我阿媽咧就長啲時間係已經返咗去做嘢啦，跟住 my dad went back a little later，so 係啦，更加耐時間冇見過阿媽嘅。咁we stay in contact by fax machine or
wait, fax?
phone call.
Like you wrote?
係啊，my mom likes writing fax and sending it。即係我諗佢可能懶，即係唔想寄信啦，佢想直情寫完就 fax 過嚟咁樣咯。所以好耐啊，we kept a fax machine for a long time。
但係 I mean 香港加拿大咁樣都得㗎？
都係佢即係 long 啲 fax 過嚟啫嘛，都係可能用半分鐘就有封信啦咁樣。
Wow!
Yeah， 係啊，咁樣我覺得都幾好笑嘅，真係好 fascinating。
But and it captures the handwriting too.
Yeah.
Wow.
係啊，actually I might even have some of those if it's not faded。係啦，咁樣咧，我記得嗰一年阿爸好似係喺上海做嘢，阿媽喺香港啦。咁我同阿哥翻到去，我哋就maybe喺上海坐火車去杭州，可能係嗰個 trip。跟住咧 we had four seats facing each other 咁樣。跟住咧，我其實我somehow咧，我一路想話。我就問爸爸媽咪可唔可以有個 family meeting 啊咁樣，跟住咧我諗佢哋唔好知係咩 family meeting 啊咁，跟住 but family meeting for me was 即係我都唔記得點問啊，即係我 sort of 問我哋而家係點樣㗎咁樣嗰啲，咁 咁
Wait,
我諗
like,
佢
to actually clarify roles or what's going on in the family?
what's going on 咁I think my question wasn't very clear as well. 咁所以佢即係其實 it wasn't really a discussion. It was just my dad sort of summarizing our situation, you know, who's here, who's there, and then I think he just ended up he just says 咁係啦，所以咧你哋就繼續努力讀書啦咁樣 something like that. 跟住咧 and then I felt okay.
Of course.
Standard answer.
係啦，咁 no, but at that point I felt 好 it's sort of what I wanted 咁樣。係啦，咁我諗個 role 啊，係 back to 個 role 嗰度，我諗佢哋可能唔 expect 我會嗰個，即係我會問呢個問題啦，可能因為我細佬咁，可能我一向個 role 都係 just do my own things 咁樣，又可能 maybe I was grade 10 or grade 11，咁所以 they never 係啦，即係 sort of becoming a older teenager，咁所以佢哋冇諗冇 realize 我會有呢類問題咯，或者我想知道 what's happening with the family 咁樣啦。Yeah, so there was sort of a moment of changing or for even for myself or for realizing my role. Yeah.
So in a way, you're taking the next step in maturity. Like you're the one initiating the communication in your family.
Yeah, or I wanted to. I guess my dad and mom had a plan, or they know what's going on, but I want to know about it too. 咁樣。
咁我係比較 sit back 嗰個，即係我唔會第一個出聲好多嘢，或者係我唔會第一個去講，因為我覺得我講嘢唔叻。喺某個程度上講嘢唔叻，即係對熟嘅人咧講嘢係冇咁叻嘅，我覺得唔知點解。即係對啲唔識嘅人咧，我如果要鬧佢，我可以鬧佢。所以係咯，同埋係，所以我諗，如果我個 role 係我，即係我就會嗰啲得你哋講，我聽咁樣咯。我又好少可會提出，就算我提出意見，我都係 observe 晒所有人，我先至去提出咯。
I think I'm more of an observer than like I'm an observer, and then if I feel like I need to chime in, then I'll chime in. I think for the longest time, I used to be the guy that just wanted to chill and not say much or do much. And I didn't want to appear as this guy who just was like appearing off as like cocky or anything like that. But then like I think some people have mentioned to me that I have like I'm not that kind of person. I'm not just the kind of person that can just sit back and chill. Like because I do find myself more anxious if I'm just doing that and not actually saying anything and just keeping things to myself. Like I feel like that's not like being true to myself, I guess, to a certain degree. And I think I've had to rely on other people to tell me that like, oh, you have more of these like leadership qualities that you should probably be like doing or displaying, I guess. And you shouldn't be afraid to do that more often, I guess. So then nowadays I'm trying to kind of do that. Yeah.
That's
I think.
really cool. So like part of you wants to like portray yourself as a calm, chill guy, but really you really are a rock the boat kind of person.
In certain cases, I think like I will probably be asking questions that might seem like nobody wants to be asking, because it might appear as sensitive or like nobody really wants to like nobody really wants to be that kind of guy to be asking. And in certain cases I think I don't mind doing that.
Wow.
But before I used to be more reserved, I think. And then like even thinking back to like university days, like when we would have like group projects, I usually don't want to be that kind of guy who has to like tell people to pick up their slack or you know, like that kind of person, right? Because I didn't want to have to be this like hardcore dude. But then I soon realized that like if I don't do that, no one's going to really do it. And like, I had to kind of force myself afterwards a bit to go into that mode where I was like, I'm not satisfied with what we're doing. And I kind of want to at least try to do it in a way that we need to be more aligned with that. So I've taken more ownership of that, I guess.
啱啱呢個問題，我諗到另外一個方法答啊，咁就係嗰陣時咧即係我都有少覺得細佬咧，即係一家人嘅時候咧，就less role 嘅，真係係啦，即係好多時阿爸阿媽會好多嘢做晒添啦，即係煮飯啊、洗衫嗰啲都佢哋都 take lead 咁，但係到佢哋走咗就我同阿哥住咧。It turns out that 我係煮飯嗰個嚟嘅，咁樣即係我係 on time 嗰個，即係我係早起身啊嗰個咁樣。咁呢個到而家都有啲係嘅，即係我係中意或者我係即係我比較重視嗰樣嘢多啲嘅，即係係夠鐘食飯啊咁樣。或者食飯嘅時候，大家唔埋嚟咧，大家未 ready 食飯咧，I'll get pissed off. I try to not to get pissed off.
食飯啦
，yeah.
And actually, it's not just in my current home. 即係我去到人哋屋企嘅時候咧，我都會有咁係啦。I like to get things done at home. Yeah,
that's important. It's really important to have that. Like, I feel like in my family, I'm kind of laid back. It's like, oh, if it doesn't really get done, oh, someone else will do it, or it'll get done another time. But as a kid in my family of origin, like, I think I was the kind of kid who made my family proud, and that was really important to me. Like, I was the kid that, you know, at church, people would go up to my parents to say, oh, they go loyal guai, they go loyal lek. And like, that was important to me, right? Like, okay, I guess I can make my parents proud. And so I should make my parents proud. But as I grew older, I realized like I didn't really leave space for my brother to be good at stuff, right? Like I brought home the art awards, the academic awards, the athletic awards, and there wasn't really a space for my brother to shine, in a sense. And I think that made life kind of hard for him, because what do you do as a kid who doesn't have a space to shine is you act out and you know, get in trouble. So he was the one, you know, getting in trouble, and thankfully he's not getting in trouble anymore, and he's super helpful to my mom. But I think like the pressure it placed on me is that like I have to make the right choices. I need to pursue these goals that are important and lofty to continue to make my family proud. And at some point I just realized like I wasn't able to acknowledge the regrets. I wasn't really able to acknowledge the shame or guilt, because I needed to be the one to make my family proud. And if that's your role, you don't really get to make mistakes. And I think that really like spoke to me through this movie, Encanto, is that you needed everyone to find their place, everyone to find their part, and not to just like run around within this circle or this limitation, but how do you keep expanding your role to take on more responsibility, or to try something else, or to be able to express like I don't want to do that, or I don't always want to be making the right decisions. Like sometimes I just want to sit back and let someone else do this thing. So my next question for you is, if you could have a chance to change or expand your role, again, whether in your family of origin, your family situation right now, what elements would you want to include or remove?
我應該咩都唔改變，因為如果改變咗或者點樣，嗰個就唔係我咯。我諗係咧，即係我諗我冇乜特別想去。
Yeah, you're comfortable with the dynamic.
點講咧？即係可能我有啲嘢會好想用，即係某一方面嘅性格啊，或者點，可能我覺得如果我係咁樣就好啦。但係我覺得好多嘢都係你有得必有失咯。即 即係你如果你係一個咁嘅人，咁可能你另外一方面就冇咁好，咁但係可能我而家我就係因為另外一方面好咯。
Yeah, that makes sense. There's some trade-off involved.
其實我諗唔到嘅，可能即係 Tiff 話唔改，我可能都覺得係因為我唔想改啦。Yeah. 因為睇呢套嘢咧，有樣嘢幾 resonate 到咧，就係嗰幾個人咧好 specialize 嘅，即係I mean Isabella, Louisa, I mean almost all of them. It's very specialized in something, and as a result, they miss out a lot in everything else. 咁樣，咁whereas 而我就即係做 I mean you know doing community work, doing art. Well, my kind of doing art. I mean I'm not specialized in a single art form too, right? So I've never been specialized in that way. So it has always been balancing different parts of life. 咁所以咧即係所以我諗，如果想要變 my role in a certain way, it's actually 我可能間唔中都變噶啦。即係 it's always balancing 係咯，所以就如果話變可能係咯，即係可能我 in a few months 我就想變噶啦。即係 when I realize this is not working well in our current 即係過到嚟之後又點啊點，所以就即係隨時都可以變啦。
It sounds like there's like a healthy flexibility that like as
hopefully
needed you adapt. Hopefully
Yeah.
That you're not sacrificing parts of yourself in order to make those changes.
Or well 可能成日都會有啲 sacrifice 啊，即係或者 make trade off 咯，或者
I think for me it's I think I've been seeing this more as I kind of do this kind of work where it's like you are actually taking ownership of what people say about you, like no matter how you try and avoid it, it's like, you know, if you have like more than 2 or 3 people telling you that like, oh, you should probably be more like assertive in this, or you should probably be taking more initiative in that, like eventually you just kind of like have to accept that no matter how you try and run away from it, right? So I think when I initially was trying to adapt to this mentality of like, oh, you're a leader now, and it was kind of like, oh, I have to be the guy who knows everything. I have to do everything myself. I have to set an example for people, which is still the case. But I think where the expansion comes from, or the evolution of it comes from, is like being more open-minded about what that definition is to me, or that role, because being like a leader, for example, doesn't mean that you have to take on all those things yourself. It can also mean like how to teach the next generation how to do certain things, or setting an example of what kind of leader you might want to be, right? So I think for me, at least right now, it's been about like, how do I teach or inspire the next generation to also have these sorts of skill sets, which I had to kind of explore and discover like with the help of others. So like it's like these hidden capabilities or abilities that you never really knew you had or had the confidence to step into, but like giving them, like passing on the torch to them to be like, hey, like, you know, maybe we can try this, or maybe I'd like to see you maybe take a little bit of more initiative here, like that kind of thing, and kind of trying to help them discover it along that way too, like of trying to take responsibility for a lot of the things that they do, I think. So I think that's where my evolution has come in where I have had this experience now that I can be able to help the next generation too, not just focus on like the sort of tasks that I have to do everything myself, I guess.
Yeah. And what I'm hearing, Colin, is that it's not just for your immediate family. You're not talking about you and your parents. You're talking about like the wider community, that family, like having, just being able to reach out further and extend your influence further into the community and the next generation.
Yeah, I think so. In community, in even family relationships too. I think I've been trying to set like an example, I guess.
So back to the movie. What parts of the movie did you find most insightful or moving? Or if you really, there were parts that you didn't like, what parts of that movie kind of irked you?
邊度啊？我睇咗2次啦。我第二次睇嗰陣時咧，我突然間 recognize 即係留意到一樣嘢啊，咁樣係嗱。即係 Isabella 咧，佢首歌咧就係講I just made something unexpected, something sharp, something strange 好似，即係佢本身咧就係整好多好靚嘅花，即係啲人一睇就覺得好靚。咁咧佢咧嗰度就係佢同 she was having an argument with Mirabelle, and then all of a sudden this cactus popped up 咁樣，跟住佢就好 amazed 啦。咁樣，但係咧跟住係啦，即係跟住首歌佢就好 let go 啊，好開心啦。但係咧，我啱啱第二次睇咧，我留意到咧，佢when they invited the guy， 即係嗰個好靚仔嗰個係 last Usman's the other family，so they invited that family over. Before they came, they had a family meeting. So Abuela asked Dolores 你聽到啲咩啦？跟住 Dolores 就其中一句and he wants 5 children。跟住咧 at that moment Isabella 個頭咧生咗幾粒好奇怪嘅花出嚟嘅，係啦。跟住佢生咗出嚟之後咧 Abuela 咧即刻掹走抌咗佢嘅。係啦，咁所以咧，即係我突然間嗰一刻 realize 即係原來咧，其實佢 before that song。When she made the cactus, actually 佢唔小心都試過整咗一啲奇怪嘢出嚟噶啦。咁 and then I became more 我更加猛啊 Abuela 啦，因為 Abuela 真係好明顯佢好即係佢咁對 Mirabelle 我都唔開心噶啦。跟住原來佢都咁 suppress， 即係佢咁 oppress 住Isabella 咧，即係佢即係 supposedly。即係當嗰啲花係佢一種 expression 咧，即係佢 express 咗呢啲奇怪花出嚟，佢即刻抌咗佢嘅。嗰一個 moment 好特別，即係好正。Yeah.
You guys have any other thoughts about Abuela? She's quite a controversial character. Like, I think she went through a lot, right? We're talking about intergenerational trauma. She lost her husband. She had 3 babies to take care of. And suddenly she's been gifted with this house. And, you know, she's watched her family grow, watched these gifts come into her family members. But at what cost?
我其實對呢套戲咧，我係冇乜，我唔可以話我中意睇，但我亦都唔可以話我唔中意睇。我諗係即係我覺得 Disney movie 咧就 never disappoints 嘅，即係 music 啊，即係佢個音樂係好聽咁樣啦，同埋佢成個即係。佢 overall 其實個 storyline 我知道佢想表達啲咩，但係可能唔係我想，即係唔係我個 type 啦。即係所以其實我對呢套戲係即係 in a way 係 no comments 咧，係因為我覺得即係尤其是對Mirabelle 佢，因為佢喺套戲度就係冇嗰個 special gift 啊嘛。咁即係你見到佢 grandma 咁樣點樣對佢，即係一路好似喺度。同佢講你冇噶，你唔得噶，點，因為我就會覺得佢都係你個孫嚟噶，即係衰啲講句，即係點解係淨係佢咧？即係點解你反而唔係因為佢冇，所以你更加要錫佢咩咁樣啦？即係同埋係即係我覺得係哇我老實講，我真係覺得係做戲咧先至會可以 Mirabelle 呢個 character 係可以一路。唔去放棄啊，或者佢覺得自己都仲好有用啊，好 positive 咯。即係我覺得喺現實生活，其實一個正常人，你俾人講多2次咧，你係會 即係你都會去兜自己咯。
Yeah.
咁我就會覺得其實如果將呢個 storyline 係真係擺喺 real life 嘅話，我唔覺得會有 Mirabelle 呢個人咯。先我唔覺得佢可以咁 positive 一路 last 到最尾先即係佢先 kind of find out 佢所謂自己嗰個 special gift 啦。咁樣即係我覺得同埋可能係咯，可能因為我真係唔係好 agree on how her grandparents treats her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's true. Like, I like that you pointed out the fact that, like, she's the one without the gift. Shouldn't you love her extra, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like her parents do. Like, I think her parents are very understanding and they're always watching out for her. But Abuela, yeah, she's another force.
I think when you just mentioned that, like, when you have a special gift, you should get extra love. That just sounds like at least from what I'm hearing, like, or at least reading about lots of these kinds of in life real scenarios, like we do see that a lot, like especially if you have like multiple kids, and you know some kids do better than other kids, and you put favoritism over them because they're the ones that are accomplishing certain things in life, or they're the ones that have the special gifts that you've always wanted in them. And then the other kids just kind of get like almost like forgotten or like neglected almost. So from that standpoint, I can totally see why, at least for me, like when I watched this movie, that was one bit that I did not like at all, which I think they did a good job of portraying, because I think this does happen very often, that we do forget about the ones that don't have gifts as they portrayed as, right? Yeah. So that's one bit. The other bit, I guess, there's that scene when the mom of Mirabelle talks to her about not spending too much time on not having a gift. I think that really hit home, because for me, like, I've always thought of myself as like an average person. Like, I don't have special gifts per se, like obviously in the movies of like having super strength or a super wisdom or that sort of thing. And I think for a long time, like I felt I was like less important or special than everyone else around me who had those sorts of gifts that kept being portrayed as like the things that we would want to see in somebody, right? And then if you don't have those things, then you're just kind of like on your own.
Yeah.
So I think that like we're special in our own unique way. Sometimes it just takes time to recognize that, and maybe someone else can also help us in discovering it. Like in my case, like how I talked about how other people saw that I had some leadership capabilities that I never knew I could kind of foster or develop more. And for me, like a gift in this scenario, like it's like, I question, like, does it have to be physical or even tangible, like something that we have to see or touch, or can it actually be something that's like deep down inside too, right? Like with these kinds of gifts, like if I don't have a gift, does that mean I'm less? No, I that's my belief. Like, what about those who don't have gifts, like those town villagers? They still have gifts. It's just that we often kind of put these things on a pedestal where it's like the most important thing, and it's often not the case, and we forget about that quite often. And I guess to leave it off, like with the last line, like the miracle is you, right? Like it's not some gift that you have, but it's also like everything else about you that makes you a gift. So just to focus on one thing about yourself, like that should not be the case.
Yeah. And I think this show displays that so beautifully, right? That like we cannot limit people to their gifts. That ultimately, like the gift is all of you, all of who you are inside. So thank you. Yeah, thank you for humoring me with this conversation. And hopefully for our listeners, this episode gave you some more thoughts about your family dynamics, how they've shaped you, your gifts or non-gifts. And so families are precious. And sometimes living with them can be so challenging, and sometimes they can also be so beautiful. So cheers to the ungifted. Thank you for listening again to this episode of Coffee Bubble Tea. Tune in next week for our next episode. Visit us on Instagram, Facebook, and leave any comments or questions that you might have for us. Thanks again, and bye.
See you later. Bye-bye.